Hey guys, my name is Legend of Noob and welcome to another video. Today I thought I would go over just kind of an Ullr guide. So, it took me a long time to get good at Ullr. So I thought I'd just run over, there's a lot of guides actually for Ullr. I think one of the better guides that I've found is by Sexy Rexy, I think is the name. He's a really good Ullr player. I actually learned a lot from watching his videos. I'll put a link down to his channel in the description. He does a lot of stuff other than Ullr, but thought it might as well. So I'm leveling up all the way to 20, just to show you maximum performance, but you should realize that all the stuff that I'm going to show you, since it's at level 20, is not always going to work down at level, like, 3 or 5, right? So it's like an arena match or something. So, as you can see, Ullr's passive is called, I think, Weapons Master. I'll actually take a look at the abilities real quick. Yeah, it's called Weapon Master. When he uses an ability in either stance, his cooldowns in the opposite stance are reduced. It reduces by 1 second. So, yeah, he's a stance switcher, so he has no ultimate. His ultimate just swaps stance. And so what it does is, when he's in this stance, if I throw this ability here, right? That ability is on the 12-second cooldown. 10, that reduces it, reduces it. So all these abilities reduce the cooldowns in the opposite stance. So I originally thought it meant if I use his first ability, only if I use his first ability in the other stance will the first ability be reduced. So I thought it's per ability, so Axe stance first ability only reduces bow stance first ability, but it actually reduces all the. So I'm going to throw all 3 of these out.
Will be the end of you.
So all 3 are out. They're all getting reduced by this ability. See? So each ability reduces the cooldown of every single ability. So now let's get into his actual abilities. His first ability is called Bladed Arrow or Thrown Axe. So in his range stance, which is the stance you start in, he fires a bladed arrow in a line that deals damage and passes through all targets that it hits. The damage is at max rank with no items, 290 damage. In axe stance, he throws an axe in a line, hitting a single target and dealing damage and stunning it. So this will not go through minions, so it's kind of annoying in maps such as Arena where the enemy is pushing with the minions. The axe, instead of stunning an enemy, will hit the minion instead. It has less damage, it only does 170 damage, but it stuns for 1.4 seconds. So, already you can kind of see just from these abilities, Ullr has a combo. You throw out an axe, you stun the enemy, you swap to bow stance, and you fire out some arrows. Although you don't actually have to use any sort of combos with Ullr, he's very independent, and I'll show you why in a moment. As soon as we get to his ultimate, you can see why he doesn't have to rely on combos to kill enemies. So his second ability is called Invigorate or Expose Weakness. In his melee stance, he gains bonus move speed for 5 seconds, and in his range stance, he gains bonus physical power. So in axe stance, he gets to run around really fast, and in bow stance, he gets some extra damage. It's pretty simple. I can show it to you actually. By the way, this is the Odyssey Tier 5 skin, so the effects are a little bit different than normal Ullr. So that was the movement. Let's go in here real quick, get some mana back so I can show you. Here we go. So this move speed, pretty much, just bonus. You can see it right above my health bar, that little axe symbol. It just went away right now. And in his bow stance, he gains extra power. So right now I'm dealing 110 with basic attacks. As soon as the effect wears off, I deal 72. So it's quite a nice bonus at full rank. You'll see a lot of people that don't level this second ability for a long time. And I don't actually do it as much either. I don't level that ability much, but it's not anything bad to level it. It's not some sign of a noob if you level that second ability, because it's actually very useful. I mean, you're running away from. It's helpful in a fight in your bow stance, and it's helpful getting out of a fight with the axe stance movement speed. So you're not doing anything wrong by leveling it, but you can get a lot more damage from leveling your damaging abilities instead. So Ullr's third ability is called Hail of Arrows or Glory Bound. In his range stance, he fires a really long-ranged volley of arrows that deals a ton of damage. Actually, it's surprisingly less than... Without any items, it is less damage than the bladed arrow, but I believe it scales up. It gets more damage from items. It deals a lot more damage with items than the bladed arrow does. So it's really a small targeter. I'll show it to you real quick. I mean, that's really long range. If you take this bow stance, right, that's a really long range targeter. You can bring it all the way in. See, it's pretty small. You can get some really cool like snipes out of this. It's a lot of fun actually to land a snipe with this.
Shower of icicles.
It deals a lot of damage, and the reason I'm not using items right now is because I'm actually going to go over some item builds afterwards, and I don't want to have to go through the process of selling a bunch of items, and I don't want to show you guys the damage output with a certain set of items, because items will change the damage output. So in his axe stance, it's called Glory Bound. He jumps, leaps to his target location, dealing damage in an AoE upon arrival. This is his escape, pretty much. It can also be a great initiating tool, but then if you haven't leveled your second ability for movement speed, you have no escape. But it's a nice jump. It's got really cool effects with this skin, actually, but... So you kind of just, it's your initiator or your escape. And the really cool thing about Ullr, since his passive reduces cooldowns, is, actually, hang on, I just gotta wait for this to come back up, but you can leap in, then throw all your combo out, right? And then that leap is almost back, right? Not exactly, but if you're in an actual fight, chances are you're not gonna get so low that you have to run away straight away. So when you're over in this stance,
you won't survive the wind shower of ice.
Use that cooldown. So you can initiate, and in a lot of stances, get right back to
ice.
You can get your leap right back after you jump. Right, so you can initiate and then escape later thanks to his passive. So now we're going to get to the interesting part of Ullr, which is his ultimate, which is just wield bow or wield axes. It seems like a pretty wimpy ultimate until you actually read into it, so it's pretty much just he changes his stance. In his melee stance, he changes to his axes, which removes disarms, and when he's in melee stance, he changes to ranged. He uses his bow, which also removes disarms. So Ullr, a disarm is when, I'm going to try to give an example. Bologna has a disarm. That means you cannot attack with basic attacks. You can throw out abilities, but you cannot attack, right? So if I'm trying to shoot her, I cannot attack. So it's a really good counter to abilities such as that because you remove disarms by changing. So if you're in your bow stance and you get disarmed, you change to axe to stun them, and then you get so you can still attack. They wasted a disarm on you because you can just get rid of it by automatically changing stances. And you either stance that you change to remove the disarm will give you an advantage, because if you change to axe stance, you get your stun, your leap, and your movement speed. If you change to your bow stance, you get all your damaging abilities. So this is a really good tool for just getting out of disarms, and it's something that I see a lot of people don't use, and I actually didn't use it as well when I was just starting as Ullr because I didn't realize that it could do that, and it's very, very helpful. And another bonus effect, so this is a really good ultimate. A lot of people will be like, hey, Ullr has no ultimate, you know, it's sucky, I want to be able to do something like shoot a massive arrow and kill everybody or something, but this is actually a very good ultimate, so we're going to read in a little bit more. In his axe stance, he gains additional physical lifesteal, and in his range stance, he gets attack speed. This is really great. So if I look at my stats over here, or sorry, wrong one. If I look here, in my axe stance, I have 25 physical lifesteal at max rank on my ultimate. So it's not the best when you're not max rank, so I wouldn't recommend leveling your ultimate until you have to. But once everybody's at level 20, this is really useful because technically speaking, you don't even have to build a lifesteal item because you get lifesteal out of your axe stance. This was kind of developed, I believe, so that people would be able to fight in the axe stance, because as he's a hunter, people wouldn't generally go into his axe stance. But, so it's meant to help, it is helpful, but it's not the best tool. Like, don't expect to be able to jump in with axes and just do it all, survive, because it's only 25% lifesteal, and if you, so, if you're not careful, you're not going to get too much back, and the enemy's just going to burst you down before you can actually lifesteal all of it.
You have a lot
And
of gold
now if I go
It's
into
always
bow
helpful.
stance,
Return to base to
wrong
buy
thing
items.
again,
Obtaining
attack
strong
speed.
items
Look,
will
I have
make you stronger,
1.47,
and allow you to survive.
change to axe, and I have 1.24. So it gives you attack speed.
By ice.
So again, technically speaking, you wouldn't have to build any attack speed items, because you already get 25, or not 25, how much? Attack speed, yeah, you get 25% attack speed, which is pretty good. That's like, I think, like an executioner item. So these are Ullr's abilities. Now I'm going to just go over some basic combos and little tips. Now, since I'm linking Sexy Rexy's video, I might as well say something that he said. And I'm not going to be able to slow it down like he did, but you can actually curve the axe. You see that? That wasn't the best example. I started pointing right here, and it ended up shooting over there, because I was able to curve it. So there is a time period where you can actually curve the axe. So, if your enemy's juking you like this, you're moving back and forth to try to get close to you and attack, and you throw out your axe and they juke, you can turn split second as they're juking and it'll actually follow them. So see? I threw it here, and I turned it to there. So it's just a tiny little tip, but it's actually pretty useful. And I don't know if the bow does it as well. Let's just test it out real quick. Actually, yes, it does. That's pretty good. I didn't realize it threw as much as it did. Sorry, I'm just jumping around here so I can get this ability back.
You won't survive the winter.
Yeah, wow, that's really good. Unless, hang on. Unless I'm being an idiot and seeing this wrong. Just testing this real quick. This is kind of turned into a tutorial for me as well. Okay, so let's, yeah, I think you can actually curve it. I don't know how much though, because it's kind of hard to tell with this skin exactly. So I would suggest just testing it out if you're really interested in like curving that arrow. It's not a huge tip, because honestly, a lot of times you're not going to have to curve it. If you use your actions on them, they're not moving, so you don't need to curve it. So, but if you want to test it out, feel free to go ahead. Now I'm going to show you, there's a little glitch right now, my second axe is showing. So let's show you this combo. Throw an axe. There we go. So that was, I'm going to slow it down for you guys. I threw the axe to stun him. I swapped to bow stance, fired an arrow and shot a basic attack, and then dropped my hail of arrows, my third ability. So I'll go a little slower. Now the stun's going to wear off since I'm going slower, but this one doesn't move anyway, so throw an axe, throw that, throw an auto attack, and drop that. And usually, if you practice this enough, you can get all of that off. And at max rank, that is 170 damage from the axe. Not much basic attack damage, honestly, if you're not having any items. Then 290 damage from the bladed arrow, and then 240 damage from your hail of arrows. So that's quite a lot of damage. That's a really good combo. And the reason why he does so much damage partially is because he doesn't have an ultimate. So he does a lot of nice damage without the ultimate. A lot of people think because he doesn't have an ultimate he's not good, but that's actually not quite true. He deals a lot of damage. So that's the basic combo. You can always, of course, jump into it. And that's extra damage from the leap, but the leap is kind of hard to land. It's like any other leap, actually, you know, but there's a bit of a delay. I'm going to try to show you here. So I jumped. There's a moment before I can start moving again. So it takes quite a lot practice to get that combo off. But once you do, it's a very good combo. It deals a ton of damage, and if you build penetration items, which I'm going to show in a second when I go into building, then you know, all these abilities deal even more against people with armor. Or not, they don't deal more, but they negate armor. So now we're going to go into item building. This is Ullr's basic item loadout. This is what they give you, and this is actually not a bad loadout. But a lot of people will prefer to do Warrior Tabby instead.
These arrowheads myself.
Transcendence is a very good item on Ullr. He's mana hungry, so it gives... Well, a lot of people say he's mana hungry. I don't find it too much. As you start getting better with Ullr, you start using your abilities a lot more, and so you use a lot more mana. So this gives you 35 physical power, 300 mana, 6 extra mana for 5 seconds, and 10% cooldown reduction. That cooldown reduction is really good combined with his passive because, well, he just gets even more, right? You throw out an axe, then you can do a bunch of other stuff, and you'll get that axe back really quick. So this is a really good item also because you permanently gain 15 mana per stack. And you receive 5 stacks for a god kill and 1 stack for a minion kill. Also, you get 3% of your mana converted to physical power. So that's if you have a lot of mana, which you do because you got an extra 300 mana from the item, you get a lot more physical power. So it looks like it's kind of more of a mana item than a damage item, but then you start reading into it, and it's really good because the more minions you kill, the more gods you kill, the more mana you get, and the more physical power that you get. So it's a really good item on Ullr. It's actually a really good item on a lot of hunters, but Ullr is exceptionally good.
You have a lot of gold now.
So that would usually be a starting tool. And now if we go into the starting items, you can go Hunter's Blessing, but I tend to go Attacker's Blessing because it gives penetration and damage, or Mage's Blessing. Now Mage's Blessing means that you're going to get more damage on your abilities, and as I've showed you, Ullr can deal a ton of damage with his ability combo, so that just helps even more with his abilities. But if you want to build basic attacks, I suggest Attacker's Blessing or Hunter's Blessing. So now we're going to go into some more penetration items, because I want to start out with the penetration item build. These are really... Jotun's Wrath is another really good item on Ullr. Brawler's Beast, Titan's Bane, and pretty much anything else. Sometimes Executioner, Aussie, because that's lifesteal as well. So, an Executioner. I don't know why I just said I'd be kicked from the match, but yeah, now this is Ullr. Look how much damage I just output from that. Obviously, the enemy's not going to be standing still, but just... So let's go over here real quick. This Raw has how much health? I don't know, but he has a lot of health, so it's quite a nice amount of damage. I missed an ability there. I think I missed the Hail of Arrows because he blinded me, which... So Hail of Arrows is kind of just, you want to get good at just being able to throw out that snipe, right? Like, I know if I'm back here already, you know, I'm not going to be able to hit him. And it's also really helpful because you see right above Ra's head there's a little arrow symbol. That means it'll hit him, and there you get more symbols, the more enemies you're onto. So I'm going to try to show you something here.
You
have a lot of
right.
gold now, and it is always beneficial to return to base to buy items.
So, that's a great tool of seeing that you can hit an enemy, is by that. You can also see, I don't know if it's just my graphics, but you can see that little box around him. That means that you can hit him. So, Ullr's got actually quite a nice amount of range. So, as soon as that box is on him, you can hit him with that ability, right? So, even though I'm in axe stance, I can hit him because it shows the box because I can hit him with the axe. So, yeah, this is a basic build. You obviously do not have to build like this. This is not the best idea because it's all just pure damage. If you're getting fed, this is very nice because it's got a ton of penetration, which means that enemies building armor will have that armor reduced. Executioner is a really good item because your basic attacks against an enemy reduce the target's physical protection by 12%. And it stacks up to 3 times. That's 36% of their physical armor gone already. And you get penetration with all these other things. So penetration is a really good item on a lot of gods, especially hunters, because think about it. If they build armor, negate a lot of damage from those abilities. That armor is going to be negated by all of your penetration. So, penetration is a really good item set on Ullr. So I'm going to sell these items real quick. Just give me a second. I'm going to show you a second build that you can do. This is a very interesting build on Ullr. This is the lifesteal build. So you can build these, and you can pick whatever you want for your last item. I generally go something like power, because you get nice attack speed from this. What this is going to do is, in axe stance, if we look here, you get 75% physical lifesteal, and this is just great for surviving, right? You don't deal as much damage, but you survive a lot longer if you're actually fighting, especially in axe stance. I found it's a lot of fun. I played around with it a lot.
Congratulations, you have slain a god!
I lost pretty much no health there because of the constant lifesteal. This is just kind of a funny thing that you can do just for fun. I don't exactly recommend it for higher tiers of play, but it's kind of just fun, you know, like, hey, come, you know, the enemy assassin comes to 1v1 and you're surviving him, you're out healing, you're dealing more damage than him, and you're healing more damage than him. It's kind of just a fun troll build, kind of, but it's quite effective, actually. So that's the lifesteal build, and like I said, you can build anything for your last item. I generally go power, so you get more damage to lifesteal off of. Now, the reason I build Warrior Tabby is just it gives more physical power, but you can just as easily build a Ninja Tabby. Ninja Tabby is not a bad item. It gives less physical power, but it gives mana, attack speed, and movement speed. And as we already said, mana is great on Ullr because first of all, he's mana hungry, and second of all, if you build Transcendence, that's extra mana to be converted into physical power. So this is not a bad item actually to build with Transcendence, especially if you kind of want to still be throwing out basic attacks alongside of all your abilities. Your basic attacks become even more effective with the attack speed because you get to throw out more of them for less, right? So in less time. So those are two starting items. Now crit Ullr is not exactly the best. I mean, you can obviously build crit on anybody, but he's not going to have as much attack speed, but then you got to remember that his passive, or his ultimate passive, means that he gets attack speed. So look, 533 damage. And actually a great amount of power for your abilities, so yeah, full crit Ullr is still very viable. And so I'm kind of just showing off just items in this area. It's not actually doing anything to you guys. You're just saying, okay, he's built full lifesteal and full crit. There's not actually any item combinations. So I'd like to go into a build that I've favorited a lot of times. I like it. It's a lot of fun to use. So we start off with the Transcendence. Along with boots, obviously. And I'm not going to go into the full, like, building per tier as in, like, starting off with starting items or anything. So, Transcendence is what you start out with, then we're going to go into some power, we're going to get Gladiator Shield. And this is not the order in which you build the items. Generally, I build Gladiator Shield, like, 4th or 5th item, or even last item, actually. But this gives a little bit of physical protection, power, and cooldown reduction, and every time you hit an enemy god with an ability, you're healed for 2.5% of your maximum health. And mana, actually, so this is really good, especially on Ullr, because he gets a lot of mana from Transcendence. This can only trigger once per ability. So you're not going to be able to throw out an axe and then lifesteal again from the axe later on. I believe you have to use a different ability first. You won't survive. Or abilities such as I can't think of an ability, but you see it only occurs once per ability, but that's okay because the ability is going to go on cooldown once you use it. So that's a really good item actually on Ullr. It's surprisingly good. People don't really think about it too much. And Brawler's Beat Stick is a very good item, and Jotun's. And now we're going to go just take a look. Shifter's Shield is a good item, or Executioner or something. So this build can be interchangeable. The two things that I always like to have the key items are Transcendence and Gladiator's Shield. So you get a lot of damage and you get a lot of healing out of this. So I'm gonna go over here to this enemy raw and have him damage me a little bit. So come damage me. There we go. So I'm just gonna throw out an axe. I'm healing up from this.
Shower of icicles.
So in 1v1, this is really good because every single one of your damaging abilities will heal you, so you can use your jump on the enemy, axe, stun, and you're just going to get health back. And so those are the two key items that I like to build on Ullr. Transcendence is not a surprise. I think almost every single Ullr guide that I've ever seen has said use Transcendence. And at first I was like, why? It just gives mana. And when I was starting out, like I said, I didn't take much mana, so I was like, I'm never mana hungry, why do I want to build this item? But then you also start seeing the beneficial effects, which is the extra damage and whatnot. So it's a very good item, and so I would recommend it heavily. It's a very good item. Shifter's Shield is another very good item. So what this does, I'm going to read into it, is you get 35% or 35 physical power and 15 physical protection. And that seems kind of dinky, not a very good item. And then you're going to go a little more in depth and read the passive. While you're over 50% health, you gain 35% or 35 physical power. Now I do not know if this is additional to the 35 the item gets or if that's counting the 35. So I don't know if you get 35 while you're over or 70. So I would test this out. I'm going to test this out real quick.
And it is always beneficial to return to base
So,
to buy items.
without this item,
Obtaining strong
let's sell
items
this
will
item
make
real
you
quick.
stronger and allow you to survive future fights.
So, actually, let's sell all the items. So, basic attacks deal 72 damage. We go into the Shifter's Shield, whatever that is.
I tempered these arrowheads
Okay,
myself.
so 72, 131. That is, I think, 70 power. If I look at that, yeah. I think that's around 70 power. So, I could be wrong. I could be definitely wrong and just screwing up my math completely, but I think that gives 70 power. And when you're below 50% health, this is the passive for the Shifter's Shield, you gain 35 magical protections and 35 physical protections. And that stacks on. So, pretty much, you get damage when you're above 50% health, and when you need to survive, you get protections. So this is a good item on pretty much, actually just pretty much anybody, because it gives power and protection. But a lot of times, if you're burst down to below 50% health, you can be burst down to 0 with or without that magical and physical protections. But it's a great survivability item, and it's very good in 1v1s, because by the time you're both in a 1v1, if you're both pretty evenly skilled, you're both dealing the same amount of damage to each other, kind of, and so you're both getting down to low HP, and the Shifter's Shield can give you the edge because you get more damage above 50% HP, and then when you're below in the duel, you get extra protection. So I think it's a really good item, and I don't see too many people building it, but I think it's great. So Shifter's Shield is definitely a very good item on Ullr. And so we're just going to kind of go through all these different items. You know, you can build crit, you can build anything you want. Kin Size is another great item. Not specifically on Ullr, but it can be used when you're playing Ullr against a lot of high health targets. So I'm just going to real quick just give an example. So you're playing against the enemy, and it's just, they have a super tanky Hercules. Or not Hercules, let's say Guan Yu. Just anybody, actually. So Hercules, Guan Yu, whatever, they just got a ton of health, and it's so annoying. You're shooting them and shooting them and shooting them, and nothing is happening. You build Kin Size, and what does that do? So we're going to take a real quick look at this. It gives 40 physical power and 15% attack speed. That's okay, but the passive was what really makes it great against high health targets. On basic attack hits, you deal physical damage equal to 3% of the target's maximum health. If the target has over 2,000 health, which a really tanky enemy will, the bonus damage scales upwards. This effect reaches a maximum of 5% of the target's maximum health at 2750 HP. So it's pretty much just the more health they build, the more damage you'll deal to them. So this is kind of a win-win item actually, because it's not like people always say it works best against high health targets, and it does, but it deals the same 3% of HP even if the target has low health, right? So let's just take a look at this Odin's health, I guess. It's not showing the health, okay. But it just deals extra damage, right? See, that little 14 below, that is the extra damage that it's dealing, and that's constant. The more health they build, the more damage you get to deal against them. This is an item for pretty much any hunter, anybody actually, but it's actually especially good
You have a lot of gold
on
now,
Ullr
and it
because
is always beneficial to
he
return
can
to base to
basic
buy
attack,
items.
right?
Obtaining strong
So
items
if
will
you
make
think
you
about it,
stronger
Ullr
and
has
allow you to
his
survive.
combos, right? He can throw out axes and then arrows and whatnot. But you can also build Ullr like a basic attack person, which is kind of what I showed you with the full crit or the full lifesteal. But this kin size is just great because you can get to build that. You get power and whatnot, and you get to counter any high health target you have, or actually any low health target just dies faster, right? This is a really good item altogether. It's not like I wouldn't recommend it as a #1 item. I would say #1 item is Transcendence for sure on Ullr. But kin size, it's a great item, or all around. If you need, not all around, because it doesn't actually give you any beneficial effects such as healing. But if you need to counter a high health target, kin size is the absolute way to go, especially when you combo it with penetration items and crit items, right? So I'm just gonna grab a Deathbringer, Transcendence. I'm gonna sell the Shifter Shield because I don't need that at the moment. A Jotun's Wrath, and I'm either Brawlers. Yeah, let's just grab Brawlers just to show. Actually, yeah, no, not Brawlers. I'm not gonna do Brawlers because I want to show a little bit more crit.
I tempered these arrowheads myself.
So here you go. 771 damage, and you just deal extra damage on the more health they have. Right? So it's not, it's kind of, all the other items are helping contribute to that 771 damage. But kin size is great because you're critting on that enemy, along with all the other penetration, so you're dealing more damage to the enemy, and then you get an extra 3 to 5% of that target's maximum HP as damage.
You have a lot of gold
So kin size is a very good
anti-health
item.
Obtaining strong items will make
So,
you stronger and
just gonna
allow
sell
you to
these real
survive
quick
future fights.
and go down to level 1. Alright, so I'm going to show you level 3, which is usually what you get for like Jess or whatnot. I do not level my second ability. I level my first ability twice and my third ability once. Now you can level the third ability twice if you wanted the first ability once, but I like that better. So this is, I said I wasn't going to go over base level stuff, but I thought I would just kind of show you guys. This is what I build. So I go Hunters, and then I start into Transcendence. That's the amount of gold that you have at the starting level. Obviously, you don't have, you can build boots or something instead, but this is what I like to deal. Or, this is what I like to do. So let's go over here real quick. Show you against the level 3 Raw.
You have a lot of gold.
So I'm going to jump into Initiate. So here, there you go. I did like 75% of his HP at base level with 2 items. Now why I chose Mage's Blessing is because that's 25 bonus ability damage, and at starting level, his abilities are really what deals the most amount of damage. And you get MP5, which is great because he's mana hungry, right? And you get, as soon as it evolves from the quest, right, you get 10% cooldown reduction, which is even better. Now, starting items, such as this, I tend to not sell until I have no room for any other items and I need to sell it to get that last item. So this is the basic kit that I usually go for. I can sometimes start building into boots instead of building into Transcendence, but I like starting to raid into Transcendence as soon as possible.
You have a lot of gold now.
So, I mean, obviously you're gonna be dealing damage as well, and they're gonna have items that Raw doesn't, but just kind of showing you, Ullr deals a lot of damage. It's actually quite surprising. Once you start really getting used to Ullr and getting good at his abilities, landing his combos, you start to really see that he deals a lot of damage. He's one of the best hunters in the game. And he's so versatile because he can build so many different ways to deal damage, to survive, actually. And I mean, any hunter can obviously build items, but Ullr gets a lot out of his items because of his passive, right? His passive, his ultimate passive. And so like I said, I don't level the ultimate passive too much, until I have to, right? Because I feel like his first and third abilities are more useful. But I definitely would recommend leveling his ultimate here before you level his second ability, because the ultimate's attack speed and physical lifesteal is so good. And I don't believe changing stances will get rid of disarms until you level that ultimate. So I don't think any of the effects actually happen until you level it. You still swap stances, but you don't get any of the effects. So the ultimate's really good because it lets him pretty much, if you think about it, if you're considering, okay, I either build more penetration and damage or I build attack speed, and you're really on the fence about it, then you remember, oh yeah, I get 25% attack speed from my ultimate, so I'll go the penetration and get more damage and attack speed. Or if you're thinking, okay, what do I do? Do I do damage or like health, or do I do lifesteal? And then you remember, oh wait, in an axe stance I get 25% lifesteal. So Ullr really, he's a very versatile hunter. I like him. I just love Norse characters. I love playing as that Viking guy with the axes or the bows. But Ullr in general, he was like my guy. When I first started playing Smite, actually, it was downloading. I had a crappy PC back when I first downloaded Smite, so it took forever to download, and I was like really worried because my PC was dying and I wasn't sure if it was going to kill it if I downloaded more games. But so I started downloading it, and then I went on the internet and I was like, okay, I want to find who I want to play. And I was looking through, I was like, okay, I can play Thor, maybe Odin. You know, I didn't really like the look of Odin at the time when I first saw his picture. I was like, maybe Tyr, because I was looking for Vikings, and I was looking for damage. And so I saw Thanatos, who was over on the Greek side, and I was like, okay, Thanatos is cool. I actually do really like Thanatos. He's a lot of fun. But I was like, okay, I really don't know what to do. And then I went all the way down to the bottom, and I saw Ullr. And fun fact, I was actually not looking to main Ullr. I was looking through the characters to see if they had Njord, which they don't, and I'm kind of glad they don't because he's my favorite Norse god. And I feel like I would be upset if they changed something about him from the lore. But so I was looking for Njord, the Norse god of the oceans, and I couldn't find him. And then I was like, hey, look, there's this guy Ullr down here. So I started looking through him. It's like, holy cow, this guy's really, really cool. And so I got a free god unlock, which I don't know if they still do that for starting players, but you get free god unlocks back when I started playing. And so I was like, I automatically just bought Ullr. And I was playing with him, and I was really bad as him. And so I met this guy. And he was like, hey, I can teach you how to play Ullr. And he was like, okay, dude, you suck. You shouldn't have started with Ullr. You know, or that wasn't him. Somebody else said that to me. This guy was very helpful. He just said, I'm going to help you play Ullr. But somebody else said, dude, you know, you shouldn't have started with Ullr. He's one of the hardest characters to play in the game. And I was like, whatever, I'm going to play him. And I decided to start playing him, and I just kept playing him continually. One of my tips was I started playing against bots a lot, the medium level bots, and I used to suck against bots, which is sad, because now I just absolutely destroy them. But I was like, I just played against bots, and I was like, I am not going to call myself a good Ullr until I can beat these bots. And I eventually got to the stage where I was like, okay, I'm really good at this guy now. So I would recommend playing against bots to get used to them, but once you're really good at it, I mean, I still play against bots to try out different builds and stuff.
You won't survive.
But honestly,
And it is always beneficial to
at the end
return
of the
to base
day,
to
it
buy
comes down to
items.
playing against real people.
Obtaining strong items
And
will
you're
make
gonna
you
play against
stronger
people that are
and
good at
allow you to
juking,
survive
and
future fights.
even I have been juked. Like I would consider myself a very good Ullr at this point, but I have been juked by players all the time. Right? Like you can play against bots all you want. You can get really good. You can watch tutorials, but you're still gonna run into somebody who beats you. And the only thing I can really say to you is just keep practicing. Right? Every single god in this game can be mastered. Like, for instance, I used to be very sucky Odin. I was really like always 6 Odin. And then I bought a skin that was really cool, and I was like, okay, this is a cool skin. I'm gonna play Odin again just to try it out. And I just kept playing and got better as him. I'm currently on a deathless streak since buying that skin. But I used to be a sucky Odin.
You have a lot of
You could
gold
be
now,
a
but it
sucky
is always
Ullr and be like,
beneficial to return
I'm
to
just gonna
base to
keep
buy
playing it, because
items.
that's what I would recommend doing.
Obtaining
Just
strong items will make
don't
you
give up playing the
stronger
character
and allow
because
you
you're
to
not good at
survive
them at
future
first. I mean,
fights.
Ullr is one of the hardest characters to play in the game. You gotta get used to him. So you can watch tutorials all you want, but at the end of the day, it comes down to playing him as much as possible. And also, every single time you lose, take a lesson from it. Every single time you win, take a lesson from it. Look back and say, okay, what could I have done better? What did I do bad? What did I do good? You know, look at your plays, look at what you did really good, and look at what you did bad, and just continually say, okay, I'm just going to keep learning. I still do this. Like I said, I consider myself a pretty good, but I still look at every single game I play and say, okay, what could I have done better? And that's what I would recommend doing. You can watch this tutorial 10 million times. You can watch anybody's tutorial,
You have a lot of gold
and you'll
now,
get nothing
but it
out
is
of it
always
unless you
beneficial to
practice,
return
unless
to
you
base
play,
to
unless
buy
you
items.
see, okay,
Obtaining strong
this is the
items
kind
will
of
make
Ullr
you
I'm good at.
stronger
I'm good at
and
auto
allow you
attack
to
based Ullr,
survive
or
future fights.
I'm good at ability based Ullr. You know, I can land combos, but I'm not good at basic attacks. Okay, I suggest building like penetration and power, right? You just gotta play the god as much as possible and just get good at it. Start learning, okay, here's what I'm good at, here's what I'm not. And I was once told, okay, to get used to hunters, play Artemis, somebody said, because she's really cheap, you can buy her, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, and it'll help you get good as hunters. And it didn't. I was terrible as Artemis. I didn't like her, I didn't like how she played, and now I'm okay with her now. But I was like, you know, I don't know, Artemis is just no good, I don't like her. She's not helping me at all. So I just decided to go back to Ullr. So you can say, you know, people can say play other gods, and maybe that helps. But my number one rule is just play the character as much as possible. The person you want to be good at is the person you want to play. You don't want to play somebody else to try to get used to the other character, because that's not going to work. Every single character is different. You're not going to find, okay, this guy works like this, so that's going to help me with this other person. It doesn't work like that. You know, so you can play other people, but honestly, at the end of the day, you gotta play the character you want to play. So, just learn, and just don't ever give up, because I almost gave up, and that's the dumbest thing to do. Never say, please buff this character because I'm no good at them, because buffs doesn't matter. If you can't land the axe, it doesn't matter how much damage the axe deals, you're never gonna land it, it's never gonna hit. You know, so like, just practice, learn, don't give up. That's just my tips. Just can't ever give up. You just gotta keep going and,
it is always beneficial,
you know, keep practicing, persevere, and eventually you're gonna get that diamond rank or something. You know, that was my number one goal, and I reached that just recently. I reached the diamond rank, and it's the best feeling to say. It's the best feeling to just say, hey, look, this character was the character I was really bad at, and then now I'm diamond rank as him. You know, so just keep playing. Playing characters, stop, don't give up on him. So that's just my tips. So, thanks for watching, guys. This video has gone on for a really long time. So yeah, leave a like, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys next time.